Hey bookies! So today I'm going to be telling you a little bit about all of the books that I read in the month of July. So let's get started. So the first book that I finished in July, I actually started in June, but it was Morgan Matson's Save the Date. This was the first Morgan Matson book I ever read, and I absolutely adored it. It is a book about a girl named Charlie, and it tells you all about all of the craziness that Charlie and her family have to go through at her sister's wedding. It's such a good book. I absolutely loved it. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It's definitely one that I would recommend to anyone who likes to read a contemporary young adult book. This was so good, and I really, really enjoyed it. The next book I read is actually a manga. It is the Ruby manga. So I'm a huge fan of Ruby, as you can tell by my little friends who hang out with me. But this is actually a lot of the shorts that we got to see. It tells you a little bit about all of the stories of our main 4 girls. I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. It was a good book, but it wasn't something that I necessarily had to read. I don't think it's one that I will reread again. But if you are a fan of Ruby, this is definitely something that, if you see on the store and you want to check out, you could definitely do that. The next book I read, I actually can take out both of them. I read 2 more mangas, the Wada Koi series. This was recommended to me, and I thought it was super cute. I also gave these both 3.5 out of 5 stars. They were really cute. It's all about these 2 couples, and they are secret otaku, and just everything they go through. It was super cute, and I enjoyed it. The next book I read was Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. I've actually never read this book, and I figured, hey, you're a librarian, you should probably read this. Especially since a lot of the kids and the teens have to read this for school. This way I can talk to them about it a little bit. So I gave it a shot. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. It definitely was not my favorite book. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't one that I'm ever going to go back and reread. I definitely see why the schools have them read it, and I definitely understand why it's such a classic book. But again, I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to reread it. It's just a book that I now can say I have read. The next book I read, I actually don't have a physical copy of, so let me open it up. I listened to the audiobook of this one. It is the Five Nights at Freddy's, The Fourth Closet. So yes, I'm going to say I am one of those who actually read all the Five Nights at Freddy's books. Once I started, I figured, you know what? Now I'm stuck in this series. I've got to keep going. So I did. I gave this story 3.5 out of 5 stars. There were some nice twists and turns that happened in this story. Some things that I was not expecting. There were other things that it seemed like were hidden about it. I'm not going to go into too much detail since this is the 3rd book in the series. But it does clear up some things about the Five Nights at Freddy's games and helps you understand them a little bit more. They are not a necessary thing, however, to read, and you are not missing out at all in not reading them. But out of all of them, I think this one was my favorite out of all 3 of the books. The next book I read was Pete Conrad's Survival of the Sparrows. Now, this book I gave 2.5 out of 5 stars. I was surrounded by people who really liked this book. I did not. This is not my type of book. It is too realistic for what could possibly happen in the world, in my opinion, and it just was not my cup of tea. I think maybe if I read it at another point in time, I'd enjoy it more, but it wasn't for me. But I do know a lot of people out there who really, truly love this book. It was very well written. but it's not my style. I gave this book 2.5 out of 5 stars. But again, that's just my opinion because it's not my type of book. The next book I read was Snow and Rose. It is a Snow White and Rose Red retelling. Snow White and Rose Red's actually my all-time favorite fairy tale, so I was super excited to pick this one up. And I gave this one 3 stars, unfortunately. It wasn't my favorite. I like the original fairy tale a lot better than this, but it was cute, and I would recommend it to somebody who enjoys fairy tales and enjoys fairy tale retellings. It definitely is a middle grade book, so do know that going in. It does read like a middle grade as well, but it was cute, and it's definitely one that I'm going to recommend to the children in my library. The next book I read. Oh my gosh, this book. I kind of became a little addicted to. This is Diana Gabaldon's Outlander. I am very late to the game in reading this, but oh my goodness. I am in love. This book is so good and so addicting. Especially, there's a Star series too that I'm just speeding through. I have to stop, and I think I have about an episode and a half left before season 2, and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to read the second book and then watch that season. But this book is so good. I will say that because in this book, if you do not know, the main character jumps back in time. So there are some scenes that are a little hard to read, but they are understandable for the time and understandable for the experiences that everyone is having. But I do highly recommend this. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. This is definitely one of my absolute favorites, and I am going to have to, this is a copy that I took out of my library, I'm going to have to buy the whole series and add this to my collection because I know that I am going to reread these. The next book was actually a reread. I read the Dallof Poo. I really like these books. I like to reread this book, as well as The Tea of Piglet, which is behind me somewhere. Aha, over here. The Tea of Piglet. I like to reread these just to be an inspiration to myself, to keep my mind on how I want to live my life. So I read this also to go along with my challenges that I was doing this month, because I did the OWLs, the Owls Challenge, and I needed a nonfiction book. So I figured I'd pick this one up and reread it, and I always enjoy reading it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This is, I think, the 3rd time I've read this book, and every time I enjoy it more and more. The next books I read, the 2 I have here, are the books that I've already finished for the Booktubeathon. So I read Zodiac Star Force. This was a super cute book. I really liked it, and very action-packed. It actually reminded me a lot about Sailor Moon. So if you are a fan of Sailor Moon, I would highly recommend this. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and definitely want to read more of their books. And then I have also finished Kim Reaper, Grim Beginnings. I love Sarah Graley. She writes some really cute comics. And so I decided to give this one a shot. So I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was super cute. It was very lighthearted. It was an easy read. It's not one that I think I'm going to go back and reread, like I've said about a couple of the books. Again, it was really cute, and I had fun reading it, but it's not my favorite of her comics. But I could definitely see myself, if they come out with more, continuing to read them. And that is all I have read in the month of July, or finished, I should say. I've been reading other books, but those will have to wait until August when I finished them. So tell me down below in the comments what you have read this month. I would love to know. And tell me what your favorite book is, or if you've read any of the books that I have talked about here and what you thought of them. I would love to know your opinion. I always do. Don't forget to check out Wonderland for some links for some of the different challenges that I did this month that I spoke about, like the OWL's challenge. And check down there. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell notification to be notified every time I post a video. Because this week we are doing lots and lots of challenges. You're going to get a couple of extra videos this week. And I hope that you watch them, and I hope to see you soon. Until next time, bye.